Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Well, last night we met Lewis, and we had part one of his encounters and experiences with the Dogman. Tonight we are going to revisit Lewis for part two of the rest of his encounters. Before we get in with today's upload, though, a couple links I'd like to share. As you know, I rely on my Patreon, my PayPal, and my merch to help this channel to continue to grow and go. All of those links are in the description below. I also have a second channel for creepypasta, fanfiction, and scary voice acting. Stories that, well, they really don't fit on this channel. Now, if that's anything you're into, follow that link and give those stories a listen. You may just like what you hear. Now I've taken enough of your time. Let's get on with today's upload. Shall we? Alright, everybody. Once again, I'm with Lewis. There is a couple of things that he'd like to clarify, and a couple of things that he wasn't really sure if he should share last night. But after a night of thinking about it, he kind of thought, well, you know, let's let everybody else know the real deal of what happened on the encounter that he and his wife went through. But also there was some questions about his speech. I'm going to let Lewis share that right now with you guys. So I give you Lewis. Lewis.
Hello, everyone. Hope everybody had a good day today. I know my speech is not exactly right now. I'm trying to recover from a multitude of strokes I've had. I had my first stroke in my patrol car, and that ended my law enforcement career. And that was 5 years ago. And I've had 6 more. And on my 5th stroke, I could not talk, walk, anything. I had to learn everything back over again. And that's where I'm at now with my speech. And that's why sometimes I hesitate, because I know what I want to say, but it doesn't come out. Just bear with me on that. Also, I read some of the comments, and someone had said I was really brave to face that Dogman down. Well, I really didn't have a choice. I guess I should have explained it a little bit better. There was a bay window right there at the deck, and I think I told y'all me and my wife used to hand food back and forth through that window, but the deck stopped there. It was like a nook, and the house went about 6 foot farther than the deck, so I had nowhere to go. I was stuck there, so I had no choice but to face that Dogman down, and we didn't eat that night. The steaks were given to the dog the next day. My wife had made baked potato and salad and some other things, but we didn't eat that night. And luckily, you know, I had went out with the plate and a beer in my hand to, you know, get the steaks off. I had already cut the grill off and was just flipping, making sure they were done when the incident took place. And the other thing I wanted to share that I didn't share last night is we moved the next day. We had already paid rent up for the month, but it didn't matter. We moved the church we went to, and yes, I am saved. I I give thanks to my Heavenly Father every day because my doctors say that I'm a miracle, walking, talking miracle, because I've recovered from these strokes, and it could only be Him that pulled me through. A month after we moved, me and my wife separated. A year after we divorced, she could not handle the situation. Put her through counseling, even while we were separated. She ended up moving to Tucson, Arizona. She said she didn't want to be around any more forest. And she got hooked on drugs, and she died a few years later from a drug overdose. So I wanted to, clarify those things. Also, I'm trying to think of the questions that were asked. There were some questions asked about the photo. Jeff, is there anything you want to ask me about?
Why don't we wait until the photo, until we're up to that encounter? How about that?
Oh, okay. All right. And I'll start off with my law enforcement. Now, when I started law enforcement, I started out third shift. And this was, really don't want to say the county, because it will kind of give me away, but I will say the roads where they intersect. At the way out on Highway 27, Highway 10, Highway 18, we used to have to do a welfare check on a home out there that was off a dirt road, and you went back, and this house was, I would say, to me, it looked like 100 years old. I mean, there was no paint on it. The paint had all come off, but it was all still intact. And you would drive down this dirt road, and then you would pull into where you thought the driveway was. The only way you could tell it, they had red markers, reflectors out there. And we were told not to get out of the car. And I had been there numerous times and not seen anything. You would just pull in, and the grass would be 4 foot high, like wheat grass, because it was not maintained. And you would pull in and go straight out to where the little barn was, and then turn right towards the house with the headlights on the house, then back up, and then pull out the driveway. On 2 occasions, the first one that I noticed something was there, I seen yellow eyes in the windows and under the back porch and the front porch, and they, nothing ever come out. I always would look at it and say, is that big cat, big dogs, or what is it? Well, one night I went through there and pulled in like I always did, and it was usually around 2:30 in the morning. And when I put the headlights towards the house, I could see all the eyes. And as I started backing up, 2 of these things come out from under the front porch. And I noticed that they were at least 4 foot tall, and they were on all 4s, and they were black. And they had yellow eyes, like a golden color, and they bluff charged the car. And I sat there for a minute and, trying to decide, should I call this in or not? And And I didn't. I just remembered what, was told. We do a welfare check on the property, and I have no idea why we would do a welfare check on that property. That was never explained to me. Some of the officers, we'd talk back and forth and, come up with different ideas on why we would do that. But the last time I was there, when I was pulling away, they followed me out to the edge of the driveway as I pulled out through the reflectors. And one of them let out a big yelp. And when it let out the yelp, as I was driving away, I could hear a whole bunch. I don't know if they were coyotes that were around the area or whether it was I call them critters, Dogman, whatever, whether they were doing the howling. And I'm thinking it was maybe the alpha that come out. And luckily, I was put on day shift about 2 weeks later. But I don't know. I don't think the day shift when I was doing it there, if they come out in the daytime, I don't think the day shifts. I think the night shift was the only one that checked that house. But when I was put on day shift, I was put on in a different district. I wasn't up in that area anymore, and I was thankful to get to that.
Really quick, what were the some of the ideas that the other police officers shared with you?
They thought it was strange that we were ordered not to get out of the car, not to go looking for anything,
Right.
And that was stress to us. They were like, you don't need to get out of the vehicle. This is just a welfare check, on the property.
Did any of those guys ever say if they saw anything too, or?
Yeah. A couple of the guys that were on my shift, they would, sometimes go by the same house, on the days that I was off. I'd be on 2, off 3, and on 3, off 2. So the nights that I wasn't working, those other guys would go by there, and they would always see the eyes. Sometimes they would see just, one set, and other times they would see a whole bunch of sets of eyes. And they always would wonder what it was, but nobody had the kahunas to get out to find out. And we were told, not to get out of the vehicle, And like I said, the grass was like 4 feet high. It was like wheat grass. And that's the only way you could tell where the driveway was. It was just growing up grass. You just pull it through those reflectors. And another time on night shift, I had turned off 27 onto another road. I can't think of the name of the road right now, but it's a long road. It wraps all the way around to Highway 10. And I think it's about 9.5 miles. And there's a bunch of cow pastures and stuff. And there's one straightaway on that road. It's a backcountry road, and there's not many houses on that road. I know there's 2 or 3 bridges where you cross over creeks. And I was going down that road one night, and my side marker light happened to catch something while I was going down the straightaway. There was one area where you went through 2 cow pastures, and it was probably 500, 600 yards straightaway. And then it went into a hard left turn, and then a hard right. And then a couple miles later, you come into Highway 10. But I was going down that straightaway. I guess I was running 50, 45, 50, somewhere in that area. And my side cornering light, my amber light, caught something on the left side of me. And I looked over, and there is this Dogman, as I have seen them and I know what they are. And it was running beside my car along the barbed wire fence on the shoulder of the road to the left. And it was keeping right up with me. I didn't try to pick up speed or slow down. I just looked over at it, and this thing was the size of a Shetland pony. I mean, it was pretty good size. I would say it probably weighed about 300, maybe 400 pounds, if I had to guess. It did have a tail. I seen its tail flapping. It was real fluffy. And its mouth was hanging open, and its tongue was hanging about 6 inches out of its mouth. It was almost like a dog chasing a car. You know how you see dogs chase cars sometimes, just run beside it. And then, it went all the way to the curve. And when I got to the curve, it just slowed down and stopped. And I went on around the curve. And about 2 months later, and was moved to another district that was closer to my home. And I really liked that because I could park in my driveway and, get the car at 5:15 in the morning, sign on, and go. And this was around my area. And a lot of times I would leave my house at around 5:15, 10 minutes after, I didn't have to sign on until 5:30, and I would just, cruise around a little bit because I had got up early and got dressed. And then I, just looking at different things and going through different areas. And I was going out through one, I'm not going to name the road, just like I didn't name the other road because I don't want nobody to go out to these places. But I went down this one road. It's probably about 5 miles long, and it's all country. You might see 3 or 4 houses out there, and it's mostly pastures and woods. And this one area where I come through a real steep curve that goes off. You go down a hill, and you go to a real steep curve off to the right, and then you start going back uphill. When I come around that curve, there were 3 dogmen standing in the road, just right in the middle of the road. So I hit the brakes and stopped, and they all just stared at me. And one of them started walking up to the car. Well, I put the car in reverse and started backing up, and it started trotting towards me, and it was on 2 legs, and the other 2 were on all 4s. And as I was backing up, it started trotting towards me, and I hit my PA system, and really loud. It's not the siren, but it's called a blaster. It makes a really loud blasting noise. And when I hit that, they all scattered. The one that was coming at me, he took off. He was gone. He went down to all 4s and took off. And they didn't all go the same way. I think 2 of them went to one side and the other went to the other side of the road. seen them as clear as day. And I didn't see any tails on them. I really wasn't paying attention to that. I was just, and they looked to be a dark brown. They weren't black. If they were, then it was the way my lights shined on them, but they looked to be dark brown. And they looked, two of them were smaller than the one that came towards me. He was, I'd say, maybe 7 foot tall, give or take 5 or 6 inches. He was real lean. I'd say he probably weighed about 220, 250. He was muscled up, but he was lean. He wasn't like a, Arnold Schwarzenegger kind of dog man, but he was muscled up. You could see his stomach muscles as he was coming towards me. That was one of the things that really freaked me out when I see their stomach muscles, because I know that they've got a lot of mid-range power. Anybody that's got a 6-pack has a lot of core power. So there's a couple other encounters that I had that I'm willing to share right now. Last winter, my property from my back porch, like right now, it's so thick you can't see 30 feet past the woods. It's just thick, and it goes downhill into where my pond and the stream is, and then it goes uphill and downhill. It kind of like rolling hills. And in the winter, from my back porch, I can see all my property because all the leaves are gone, and so I went down to cut some firewood, and I'd asked a friend to come with me. And I told him, I said, I hated to say this to him, but, because I knew what was on my mind, I brought my AR-10, and I asked him if he wanted to do some target practicing, and I asked him if he wanted to, bring a rifle. And he said that he wanted to do some shotgun slugs. And I said, that's even better. Just bring it along. And so I drove my tractor down in the woods. We went down at the back part of my woods, and I was cutting up a cedar tree with a chainsaw. And as I was cutting it, he was loading it in the front of my Kubota tractor, and all of a sudden he pushed me in the shoulder because I was using the chainsaw, and he said, I just saw something. I'm like, well, what did you see? And he said, I don't know what it was. He said, it was just a flash. And I said, what do you mean, like a light? And he's like, no. He said, something run like a man. He said, and it was moving out, and it was up on top of the hill. And he said, it just went flying through there. And he said, it was black. He said, and it looked like a bear running on the back legs. And I said, well, show me where it went. And we both grabbed our guns, I said, why don't you grab your shotgun and all, because I didn't see it, I had my back turned to it. And he told me, he said, it went down close to your pond. That's the way it was headed. He said it was moving so fast. And so we started walking that way, and all of a sudden it came back the opposite direction towards us. Now, it was probably 60 to 75 yards away, still up on the ridge of the hill. And every time I watch your show, it looks just like the picture of the Dogman running through the woods. You know, the one that you've got where he's like running through the woods?
Yeah.
He's black.
Yep.
Look, every time I see that, I get chills. That's what it looked like.
Now,
But
the encounter you're explaining right now, real quick, that is the one from the pictures.
No,
Okay.
that is not. No. That's not the one from the pictures.
All right.
No, the one from the pictures is when my dogs alerted me, and that was the summer before, and I knew that I, had these things, because me and my neighbor had talked about it. And I knew from the encounter I had after living up here 5 years of when I had my tent down there. And I knew that these things are everywhere. And, because, they ripped up my tent. That's where I told you, I ran out of that tent when I heard them get far enough away and in my underwear. And came home. And then the next day, my tent was just tore all to pieces, ripped up. And I knew something was going on then. But the summer before that, I think it was right before we had talked. But it was starting to, I think it was either spring or summer. And how this happened, my dogs alerted me. My yard, my backyard is fenced in, and I've got electric wire around the top of my fence because a couple of my dogs like to jump out. So I had to extend it up. It's a 6-foot fence, but I had to extend it up with electrical wire. And my dogs were barking and running down to the fence. And I usually keep my phone on me. And I was inside the fence because I had walked out the back door, and I was asking them, what are y'all barking at? What is it? What is it? And they would look and then look back at me and bark. And I started looking down in the woods and from inside the fence, and I didn't see anything at first. And I just kept looking and watching the dogs. And one of the dogs was looking at the bushes that were about 20 feet from me outside of the fence to the right. And the other dogs were looking down in the woods. And that's when I seen the one down in the woods move to the side. And I pulled out my phone and I snapped that picture. And then I took the other picture when he was gone, to show that he was standing there. You should have two pictures. One,
I still
where
got
he's
both
standing
of them.
there, and then the other one where you can see there's nothing there.
Right.
And how I found out the other one was in the bushes, I've seen these things on my property, and these things can hide like you would not believe. It had its head sticking through the bushes right there to my right, and that where it circled. And that's what my other dog was looking at and was growling at. And it had its head sticking through those bushes, and I never saw that one until I blew the picture up and started looking at it. And then that's why I took the other picture to show that there's nothing there. It had pulled its head out of there, and the other one that was down in the woods, had walked away.
Yeah, that one that was the one that was standing.
Yeah,
the larger
he
circle.
Was a big boy.
Yeah, he is huge. I mean, I was doing comparisons to like the dog house and like the tree, and I was trying to, but he was probably at least 7.5 feet. You could clearly see.
I went down there and measured that. I had 2 friends go with me, and we went down there because I was telling them about it, and they thought I was crazy. They were like, "Oh man, you're losing your mind. What kind of medication do you take?" And I'm like, "No." And I showed them the footprints. I think I sent you some footprints also with I think a pack of cigarettes and a lighter for size comparison.
I'm not really sure. I've got a couple. I think the only ones that I have from you are the circled ones and the comparison picture. I have to.
Okay.
I'll go back and check, but.
Well, I still have those pictures of the one with the cigarette pack beside of it, and it's probably, I think I measured it out at 13.5 inches long.
Wow.
And, yeah, it was huge. And then there's another one with a cigarette lighter where it is a canine print, but it's in the sand right beside the creek, and it's bigger than my hand. You can see with the yellow cigarette lighter right there beside of it. It's huge. Yeah, I could open up my whole hand and stick in the print.
Right.
And that's basically it. But I don't. It's really messed with my life. Because I used to hunt a lot. I used to go out in the woods a lot, and I even when I go out in the daytime now, and I've got my head on a swivel. Every little sound I hear, I'm looking, and my dogs are pretty good at alerting me. I have 2 pit bulls and 1 Rhodesian Ridgeback. And they're all really good dogs. And, but that's it, all except for something else that happened to me. And I'm sorry to the audience. I'm not ready to share that right now because I'm trying to deal with it. And if I can't deal with it, I don't believe you would be able to deal with it either. And I don't want to be ridiculed.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a liar. And I wouldn't wish this on anyone. And for those of you that have never seen one, consider yourself lucky. Because if you ever do see one, it's going to change your life. You won't feel safe if there's any woods around you. You'll think twice. Because once you see this, you can't unsee it. That's what people don't understand.
It's just burned.
Once you see it,
burns
you can't
right into
unsee
your
it.
brain. Yep.
Yeah.
Now,
it's just like me being a law enforcement officer. I saw things. I suffer from PTSD because of that. I saw things in law enforcement that, you see a lot of death. You see a lot of things that you don't expect to see. My brother-in-law was in law enforcement for 33 years, and he retired. And I remember when I first started law enforcement, something that he told me. And he said, "Hey, when you think you've seen everything, wait till tomorrow." And that always stuck with me.
Yeah. really quick.
Thank everybody for listening to, taking the time out to listen to my encounters and the things that's happened to me.
Lewis, really quick, you and I had talked about this, and like Lewis just said, he's got one last encounter, and this is the one that really, I mean, yeah, he's got ones that have messed him up. This one, he shared it with me, and you know, he needs some time to deal with this. And like he said, if he's not willing to, you know, he still is having a hard time believing it happened. So what's going to make you guys think it happened? And, you know, the comment section is getting better. But, you know, when someone's on here and they're sharing their encounters, you know, they're being open and honest, and ridicule is not something that should even occur on the comment section, because it's a way of somebody getting out something that is stuck in their back of their head forever, and they're tormented by it. And then comes this schlep that wants to, you know, oh, bullshit, you know. Well, who are you to say anything or call bullshit, because you don't know and you weren't there? And it's just disrespectful. So I completely understand where he's coming from, and I want to thank Lewis for, you know, coming on and sharing, because I know it was hard for him. Yesterday, before we even recorded, I was talking to him, and he was pulling back, and I was like, listen, I'm like, you know, it's not live. Let's record it, and let's see how you do. And for the first couple of minutes, it really was, you know, hard going for him, but then he opened up, and it was like opening the floodgates. And, you know, so we got to remember that during these, while these people are sharing their encounters, it's not our place to ridicule anybody. You know, that's bullshit, and I'm going to call bullshit on that one, you know, because we shouldn't, you know, make a mockery of somebody's encounters. You know, someone suffering from PTSD, and Lewis is a perfect example of that. And I was talking to him last night saying, you know, maybe your strokes are caused from stress from these encounters and not sharing them with anybody, you know. So I really thank you very much for coming on, and, you know, you're a brave guy for coming out and sharing your encounters with us. And, you know, I hope that it helps you, and I hope that it helps somebody else come out to share their encounters, because, you know, I know I was talking to you today, and you said it opened a lot up for you, but you're here again, yeah, sharing, you know, so
it did. It helped me a lot. But I've been holding this in, you know, for quite some time. You know, I've been through a lot when I was remarried, and on the fifth stroke that I had, that was probably my worst one. And in 2018 on Valentine's Day, my wife of 10 years walked out while I was bedridden. So, you know, I'm by myself now. I'm having to deal with everything. I'm trying to recover from everything. Nothing's been easy. It's all been uphill. It's been an uphill battle, and to get this, you know, off my chest does make me feel better. And I want to thank everybody for all the nice comments that they left. And if there's anything that you feel that I've left out that you want to know, just, you know, leave them in the comment section, and, you know, I'll let Jeff know. the answers to them. That, if he wants me to come back on, and eventually I will. And when I come to terms with what happened to me, I will share it. I don't want to be ridiculed, and I'm not crazy. And I've got to be able to deal with this myself, because what happened to me was very surreal. And like I'm trying to still figure it out in my head. So, like you said, if I can't come to terms with it yet, then I don't think anybody else will be able to, and I don't want to be ridiculed for something that happened that I couldn't help, and I don't know who to talk to about. I don't know how to explain it, but hopefully in the near future I'll be able to share that with everyone out there, and I want to thank everyone for taking the time out to listen to my encounters. And Jeff, I want to tell you thank you, and I love your channel, and I think you're the best channel out there, and you're honest, and somebody did make a remark that is awful funny. Everybody that's on your show has a southern accent and with question marks. Well, it's just a coincidence, I can't help the way that I speak, and especially trying to get over a stroke, and that takes me doing a lot of out loud reading, and you wouldn't believe what I've had to go through, but it's only making me a stronger person.
Right on, brother.
A better man for that.
Right
Thank
on.
you, Jeff.
Thank you. Well, really quick, before we end this, obviously that person didn't hear, the other interview from the guy from Connecticut, because he really didn't sound like he was a Southern boy. So, maybe he should start listening to some other uploads and keep his comments to himself. But everybody, I want to thank you guys for listening tonight. And Lewis, thank you again. And with that, me and Lewis are going to bid you guys farewell.
Good night.
Wow. What an amazing set of encounters. And what courage he had to just come out and share those experiences and encounters with us. I mean, even after last night and a couple of statements that were made ridiculing him, which is, crap. It's bull crap that people would do that. And I told him just to ignore it. I know that his last experience is very, very intense. And when he shared it with me, he had a hard time getting it out. And I cannot wait for him to share it, because it is truly one that will make your jaw just drop. And like he said, and I said, he's got a couple of things to work through, but I'm sure he will. He's a strong guy, a lot stronger than he thinks he is or thought he was. And, I really am, happy with how everything's going, how the channel's going. I don't really care about the trolls attacking me anymore. What bothers me is when someone comes on and wants to express what they're going through and have been through, and then you've got those idiots that want to, throw speculation and this and that. Well, the one thing I can do is I can just take the comment section out completely, and I don't want to do that, because I've got a lot of great people there that use it as a platform to get to know each other, and I think that's amazing. I'm over the trolls messing with me. I get emails daily from people who want to throw crap out at me and, you know, threaten me with their, you know, gangster paradise threats. And it's all a joke, you know. I don't even know anymore. Gangster paradise. That's funny. So let's just be respectful. If you got nothing to say and someone's sharing it, you know, talk all the shit you want about me and my channel. But when someone's sharing an encounter, be respectful. I mean, obviously, if you're talking crap, you never had an encounter then. And, you know, maybe karma will bite you in the ass, or a Dogman will. And with that, I'm going to bid you farewell.